Welcome to the Fit Dad Nation podcast, forging strong fathers and raising a stronger generation. It's time to get up or shut up with your host, Steve Roy.
Hey guys, this is Steve Roy, the host of the Fit Dad Nation podcast. Welcome to the show and thanks for listening. So before I jump into today's show, I want to share something that I'm just really excited about, and it's a program that we launched just a few weeks ago called the Fit Dad Nation Inner Circle. This is our private membership community. I'm super proud of what we've been able to create, and basically it's a hub and community for dads that are looking to reclaim their health and fitness. This industry is filled with all kinds of fake coaches and scammers and people just trying to separate you from your money, and so much out there is just bullshit. And so we've created this community where we take all of that out of what's going on in the fitness industry. So we do all kinds of stuff, and it's all accountability based, weekly and monthly challenges, workouts, live Q&As, we have tutorials, all kinds of content designed to help you become a fit dad and stay there. So if this sounds like something that you might have an interest in joining, take a look at the program. I promise you won't be disappointed. It can be found at fdnic.com, and I'll link to it in the show notes. So what I want to talk about today is something that most of us deal with, and that's trying to get off of junk food. So, everywhere we look, literally everywhere we look, from the television, we can't even go to the closest store, gas station, without just being bombarded with advertisements. You walk into any store and there's just an unlimited supply of junky foods. So obviously we know the stats. I'm just talking about the United States, but 60% of the country being overweight, or is it 35% obese? We're not getting thinner, we're getting fatter as a country. There's a number of reasons for that, but I'm not going to blame junk food because it's our responsibility not to eat it. But the fact remains that we are, and so it's a big struggle. There's no denying that there's a specific reason why we continue to eat it. It's created oftentimes in some kind of engineered setting, some kind of chemically enhanced setting where they figure out how to best appeal to our senses and make it as tasty and addictive as possible. And then they just mass market it, advertise the hell out of it, and sell it to us, and we buy it. So, I really don't believe that the food industry has our best interests at heart at all. I think that they're more interested in making money. That's a different subject altogether. But so what I want to do is, this is something that I've struggled with for many years, and I'm sure that you have as well. I don't know too many people that don't struggle with this, especially if you have kids, because, it's not, in my opinion, it's not fair to eliminate every possible cookie, cracker, cake, all those things that kids love just because you're trying to eat healthier. You're trying to teach them how to eat healthier, right? There are certain time and places for those things. So, but I'm going to share some of my tips and things that I've figured out that work for me, and I've implemented in some of my clients' lives, and it works pretty well. So I'm going to give you some ideas here on how to get yourself off of the junk food and onto a healthier diet. So, first and foremost, all right, before I even get into that, it's very, you've probably heard it a million times, but you can't out-train a bad diet, and it's absolutely true. So, and I've tried, believe it. I've tried many times to out-train a bad diet because I didn't want to give up eating shitty foods. So I would train my ass off, but it was never the same until I really cleaned up my diet. There's a huge difference. So you have to look at your quality of your diet. It really affects every part of your life, obviously just from a pure health standpoint. But if your goal is fat loss or body composition, your diet is absolutely critical. So, it just makes sense to figure out the best way to go about it. And there's no best diet. There's no best diet for anybody. There's a million and one diets. Some work for some people. And what I like to say is they all work and then none of them work. It just really depended on the person. And it comes down to, is it healthy? Is it getting you results? And can you stick with it? If those things are yes, you probably have a winner there. And something you should definitely, incorporate into your life. So first and foremost, when it comes to junk food, I'll say, get it out of the house. So again, if you have kids, young kids like I do, you're not going to have a house that is nothing but fruits and vegetables and meats and eggs, right? So you got to be realistic. But when I say get it out of the house, I could probably go into 100 clients' homes, open their pantry, and find a ton of garbage. It's just because that's what we buy, right? Go to the supermarket, we just buy shit. That's what we do. And so if you can clean out most of that out of your house, not all of it, you're a step ahead. And the reason I say that it works is because oftentimes we get those cravings late at night. There's some kind of trigger, whatever it is. Maybe you're sitting on the couch, you're watching television, and you want a pretzel or a cracker or a cookie or an ice cream, whatever it is. Now, if it's not in your house, obviously you can't eat it. And 9 times out of 10, you're not going to get up, put your clothes, put your shoes on, drive to the store, pick up the thing that you want, and come back to eat it. It's just not going to happen, right? It does happen. I've done it, but in most cases, it's not. So kind of out of sight, out of mind. I've gone to the pantries more times than I can count, looking for something specific, junky. It wasn't there. I said, screw it, and just moved on with my night, and that's fine. So get it out of the house. Number 2, get yourself on a training program. So if you're not exercising consistently, you need to be, obviously. That's extremely important on a number of levels. But when you're training consistently, you'll start, obviously increasing your muscle. You'll start looking better. You'll start feeling better. And when you start feeling better about yourself, you don't always want to put garbage in. It's kind of funny how that works. And so, if you're not working out, when you're stressed out and you're running around and you got, a million things to do and there's just no time for you, you're going to grab garbage. You're going to eat garbage. You're not going to think twice about it. But when you're on a consistent program, you have specific goals and you're working towards them and you're feeling good, there's a good chance that you aren't going to actually want to eat that. And that's the goal. The goal, in my opinion, is to get to a point where junk foods like Pop-Tarts and whatever tastes bad. And for most of us, that's not the case, right? They taste good. They're sweet. They're delicious, But there comes a point when you've adapted, you've kind of changed your taste buds when you eat something that's not healthy and it doesn't taste good. So a few years ago, I made a big shift in my diet. I went hardcore on a paleo type diet for months and months and months and months, and I felt amazing. I leaned out. It was great. And I remember the very first time after months of eating that way, I had a McDonald's cheeseburger. It tasted like cardboard. I mean, literally, it was horrible. Salt and like a salted piece of cardboard. Now, fast forward a couple years, I've been ups and downs with my diet. Yeah, and I've had certainly plenty of points where that same cheeseburger was amazing. So the goal, be consistent enough with a good, clean diet that stuff does not taste good. Also, a couple of small things that you can think about. Drinking water, obviously, is going to fill you up. Aim for a gallon a day, somewhere in there. Half a gallon at the minimum. A lot of people don't bother drinking water. They'll drink something else. Things like soda obviously don't count. Get rid of that. That's just more of a trigger for you. So I drink a lot of water and I chew a ton of sugarless gum. Now I don't know all the stats on sugarless gum and how it affects your teeth and all those other things, but I do know that it keeps my mouth moving and it, oftentimes just that little bit of sweet flavor will kind of offset my hunger. So that's kind of a thing. And I keep like 2 packs in my car. I carry it everywhere with me. So having sweet things on hand at your house is going to be critical as well. So it's natural. We want something sweet. We want to reach for a candy bar, Snickers, ice cream, whatever it is. And when you're in that moment, grabbing some blueberries or grabbing some strawberries or an apple or whatever, it's not the same, right? We're not going to get that same rush of sugar, but we do have something sweet. You can have it with Cool Whip or something like that. And even something like Epic bars, RX bars, GFB bars. Those are 3 bars that I eat that are pretty, we'll call them healthy. There are very few ingredients in those bars, and they have plenty of flavors that are sweet. Like I eat chocolate and peanut butter. That's my favorite. So that's a go-to when I do want something that's sweet, and I want nothing more than a Snickers bar. Let's go to my pantry, and I have usually a pretty big supply of those types of healthier options in there. So, now this is something, that's really huge, and it's the emotional or the mental side of why you're eating the junk food. And so what I'll ask you to do is take a look at when you're eating or making these bad choices. So if every night at 9 o'clock you're watching a certain show, or you're eating something that is crappy for you, that's your trigger. Maybe you've just associated watching Game of Thrones with eating a whole bag of popcorn, whatever it is, and that's a huge thing. That it could be stress, it could be boredom, just a pure habit of reaching for something at a certain time of night. Typically a lot of us get these cravings late at night after dinner. A couple hours go by, and then we want something sweet or salty. And so, I've always read that emotional hunger can't be satisfied with food. So we're not really hungry. It's just a trigger. It's something that's going on in our brains that says, well, okay, we need to have X, Y, or Z. Like if I keep red vines in my house with licorice, I'm a dead man. Like I just cannot stay away from those things. Like I crave them, so I don't ever bring them into the house. And it works pretty well. And so getting mindful about why you're eating at certain times is huge. And we just ran a 21-day intermittent fasting challenge in the Inner Circle. And I'll tell you, in all honesty, that's been one of the most eye-opening experiences, because, when you're eating in a shortened window, you're so much more mindful about what's going into your mouth. So you have, let's say, a 6-hour window per day to eat whatever. It fluctuated during this challenge, but let's say 9 o'clock comes around, that's your normal trigger time, but that's not your eating window, right? You're not going to eat. And so over the course of a couple of days, even a week, you're going to realize, man, I wasn't even hungry. And that's the realization that I came to, was I'm not actually hungry. I don't really want this stuff. My mind said, oh, it's 9 o'clock. You need to eat some chips and salsa. But that's just, a purely emotional thing and a trigger response. And once you become more mindful about those things, and fasting was a huge help, that goes away. And that's incredibly powerful. So I encourage you seriously to at least look into intermittent fasting and some of the benefits, because the benefits are not just from a mental standpoint. They have a ton of physical health benefits as well. It's one of the best challenges we've ever done, in all honesty. But if you screw up and you pig out, you eat junk, you have to understand that it's not the end of the world, right? It's not even healthy mentally to give up all of your favorite foods that you grew up on, giving them up permanently is not healthy from the mental side of things. It's like sacrificing it. We don't want to sacrifice, and we feel like we have to sacrifice in order to make progress. And Coach Steve said I can no longer, eat my favorite ice cream that I've been eating, once a week for the last 15 years. That's my guilty pleasure. And I don't want you to think about it like that. And first of all, if you do eat something crappy, eat it guilt-free. I eat shit all the time, and I don't feel bad about it at all, because 80 or 90% of the time I'm eating well. And that's really what it comes down to. So if you're doing that, you're free to eat whatever you want. Eat your favorite treats. Don't feel like you can never have those things that you love most, because they're bad for you. So, please, no guilt when it comes to eating that stuff. Something else that's really going to help you is planning your meals ahead of time. So if you get to a point where you're starving, right, your willpower is really put to the test, what's going to happen? In most cases, you're going to make a bad decision, because at that point, all you want to do is satisfy your cravings. You're starving. All you can think about is, I want some food. And whatever's thrown in front of you, and chances are it's not going to be, good for you, you're going to eat it. So knowing where your next meal comes from is huge. So I'm not saying you spend all day or all weekend planning out every single meal, but just plan ahead. Even if it's a day ahead or one meal ahead, you're going to come out ahead, because, like I said, you get caught, and it's going to happen, of course, but it doesn't always have to happen. And a lot of us don't want to plan, or just don't take the time to plan. But knowing that is going to take a lot of that guesswork out of it, and you're going to have a lot less of that binge eating or making crappy decisions. And on that note, every meal that you have, aim to have a protein. So protein is the most satiating of all the macronutrients. So, we're woefully short on protein in this country. Typical American diet is probably 50 to 60% carbohydrates. Much of that is processed carbohydrates. I see it all the time with clients. People tend to overestimate how much protein they're eating, which is, it's almost never, I rarely see somebody eating enough protein. And by enough protein, I don't mean you need to eat a metric ton of it. 0.7 to 1 gram per pound of body weight is fine. That's enough to maintain, and even build lean muscle tissue. So we're just not doing it though, right? Well, I had 1 egg for breakfast with some oatmeal, and then for lunch I had this big salad with all these vegetables and some chicken. Well, how much chicken? Well, it was 3 ounces. And then dinner, I had, half a chicken breast or a little piece of fish and some rice and some veggies. So you add those things up. That's a typical American diet. Add it up. We've got 60 grams of protein all day. Not enough. Not even for a woman or small woman. It's just not enough. So try to add some form of protein into every single meal if you can. I also want to talk about something that's not terribly exciting. I've spoken about this in the past. I had a podcast episode about this. Getting more sleep is critical to controlling your hunger. Even being a little bit sleep deprived, which many of us are, it's going to mess with your hormones, and it can literally trick your brain into thinking that you're hungry, lead to overeating, end up making some bad decisions. And I've lived there. I've done it many, 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 many times. So, nothing crazy. Get your 7-8 hours of sleep. Do what you can to get a good quality sleep. And that's going to actually go a long way as far as helping you make the right decisions. So what I want you to do now is just take some of this information, and I want you to set up a goal. And I want you to just make it for 1 week. 1 week, you're going to eat healthy 80% or 90% of the time. Okay, that's it. That's not, a long-term goal. It's not overwhelming. It's just 1 week. If you can track your foods even better, use a free app like MyFitnessPal and track your foods, because if you're honest with yourself and you're tracking everything that you're eating, you're going to see what's actually going into your body, and you might not even realize it. So spend the next week tracking your foods and trying to eat well and staying away from the junk, and see what happens. Don't beat yourself up. Just do the best you can. And 2 last things. 1, when you go shopping, don't let your kids pick out the groceries, because they're always going to head to the middle section with all the baked goods and the packaged foods and the crackers and the cookies and the Pop-Tarts and the Oreos, all those things. And lastly, and I've learned this the hard way many, many times, never shop when you're hungry. Your cart is going to be filled with shit. Go on a full stomach, have a plan, have a list, know what you're getting. Don't get sucked into the side deals, the 2-for-1 specials, and God forbid you go in there and you haven't eaten in a while and those Fig Newtons are just popping out at you. And next thing you know, you've got 2 boxes in your cart. You get home and you suck down a whole sleeve, right? I've been there. I know about it. Don't let that happen. Guys, you can do this. Junk food is, I'm not going to vilify the entire junk food industry. We're in full control of what we can eat and what we do eat, but we're up against a huge marketing machine in the food industry, and they are far more powerful than we are, and so they're winning. They're winning. We're buying the stuff, and we're eating it, and we're getting fatter. So guys, start making better decisions. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for joining us. And remember, if you want more information, check out the Fit Dad Basecamp group on Facebook. And don't forget to stop by fitdadnation.com. Until next time, keep kicking ass and taking the next step. You can do this, Dad.